Don't you love classic movies? They sure don't make them like they used to, and they sure don't make them like Tyrone Power, the king of 20th century Fox. Hi, I'm Evelyn Eman Delmar, the host of Book.ed, the show that connects authors and their books with book lovers.
And I'm Matthew Hoffman. I'm the film historian at the Park Ridge Public Library, and I'm also the classic film programmer at the historic Pickwick Theater in Park Ridge, Illinois. I say historic because the theater dates back to 1928, and it's a beautiful Art Deco movie palace out in the suburbs.
We're here because we want to tell you about some exciting events coming up in 2014 to celebrate the 100th birthday of Tyrone Power. It's about movies in the golden age of Hollywood, with special guest appearances and a new book that's getting a lot of buzz. It all begins May 1st at that wonderful Pickwick Theater. Matthew, tell me some of what you have planned.
Well, at the Pickwick Theater, we're going to be celebrating the films of 1939. Of course, 1939 is long considered Hollywood's greatest year, featuring films like Stagecoach, The Wizard of Oz, Gone with the Wind. But a big part of that celebration is the Tyrone Power Centennial. We're going to be showing two of his films on that night, in Old Chicago and Jesse James. That's going to be on May 1st, and the show starts at 7 o'clock. We're going to have some special guests, so it's going to be a wonderful evening.
Can you tell me, Matthew, why was Tyrone Power significant to movies in 1938 and 1939?
Well, Evelyn, he was voted king of the movies by motion picture audiences of that year. He was also the king of Hollywood. He beat out Clark Gable, who was also given that title. I believe Gable only won it once, whereas Tyrone Power won the title of King of Hollywood 3 times. The thing about Tyrone Power is, people often associate him with just the swashbucklers, films like The Black Swan, Mark of Zorro, probably his most famous film. But Power's career was so much more varied than that. He appeared in romantic comedies, musicals, westerns, and the cult classic Nightmare Alley, mystery, Witness for the Prosecution. So his career was much more extensive than people realize.
And why did you choose In Old Chicago and Jesse James to feature?
Well, to be honest, In Old Chicago was chosen by one of my guests, Power's younger daughter, Taryn Power. When I spoke to her on the phone last year, when this was my first introduction, she had mentioned how she always wanted to see In Old Chicago, and since we're in the Chicagoland area, it was a perfect choice. And Jesse James, of course, ties into the films of 1939 theme. There were other films I could have considered. The Rains Came with Tyrone Power, which was another 1939 release. But I feel that Jesse James is the film that really elevated him to be a superstar. And, you can't really cover Power's career in two films. So I kind of isolated on a certain period in his career, and that was in the late 30s, where he was transitioning from being a star in films like Lloyd's of London to really becoming a superstar in films like Jesse James.
Well, I hear that Jesse James was quite a popular movie to a certain town in Missouri where the movie was shot.
Yeah, it was shot on location, which was very unusual for a Hollywood film. I mean, this was shot about 1,500 miles from Hollywood. It was incorporated town locals in Missouri. So they really wanted to evoke that era of Jesse James' time period of the 1870s. So they basically went out into the Ozarks and found a location that would suit their needs. And it's become so popular that 75 years later, after the film has been released, people are still honoring that event. I believe they call it Jesse James Days now in Missouri.
And the Jesse James Days in Pineville, I believe,
Pineville.
is where it was shot. I mean, they're not celebrating Jesse James the Outlaw. They are celebrating Jesse James the movie 75 years
the actual
later.
Movie.
And in Old Chicago, there's, well, of course, a lot of people, I think, when they think of Chicago history and the Chicago fire, they base it more off what they saw in that movie than what actually happened. It's that realistic.
Yes, a large part of it is also fiction, some of the human drama. Of course, it is a Hollywood film. They take liberties. But of course, the things that we associate with the legend, you know, Mrs. O'Leary's cow knocking over the lantern. So I mean, and it's one of the great Hollywood spectacle films of the 1930s. The studio 20th Century Fox wanted to make a film that would rival San Francisco, which was a film released a few years earlier about the great San Francisco earthquake. So this was 20th Century Fox's attempt to make a big disaster movie, and certainly in Old Chicago fills the bill.
Well, I think it's fabulous that people can come to the Pickwick and actually see these movies on a real movie screen, on the silver screen, instead of all of these years having to watch it on TV or now on your computer screen, that come to the Pickwick and see these films the way they were meant to be seen.
Exactly, and it's a rare opportunity to see these films on a large screen with an audience, and that makes a big difference as opposed to, you know, watching it on a little computer screen or something like that. We want to try and recreate the theatrical experience of what movie going was like back in 1939.
And then with your special guests, can you tell me a little bit about who they are and why they're so special?
Well, I've got Taryn Power, Green Deer back. She's the younger daughter of Tyrone Power. She joined us last spring when she visited Park Ridge at the Park Ridge Public Library. That was my first introduction to Taryn. And we had such a wonderful evening. Actually, she was a surprise guest. I never announced her presence that night, so the regulars who attend my library series really enjoyed that. And Taryn enjoyed the town so much, and I knew that her father's Centennial would be the next year, so I invited her back. So she's going to be there on May 1st, and we're also going to be honored to have theater producer Michael Butler, of course the producer of Hair, is his most famous credit. And with Michael, what's so interesting about his presence there at this event, he's the godson of Tyrone Power. So he's going to be able to provide audiences with a lot of firsthand stories, whereas with Taryn, she grew up basically hearing stories from other people. So with Michael, you know, he's going to share some of those memories with Tyrone. And also, we're going to have organist Jay Warren of the Silent Film Society of Chicago. He's going to be performing prelude music before our show at 7 o'clock.
And he has quite a following.
He does. A lot of people connected to the Silent Film Society of Chicago come just to hear Jay Warren perform. So again, between 6:30 and 7, he's going to be performing music before the show.
Well, this is all fabulous. And there's one more thing. Romina Power, the older daughter of Tyrone Power, wrote a book back in 1998 after spending 25 or more years doing research. In Italy, it was published as Cercando mio padre. And she talked about losing her father when he was only 44 in 1958. She was only 7. As you mentioned, Taryn was young. Taryn was only 5. Mm-hmm. And so Romina and Taryn really didn't have very many memories of their father. They had to learn about him the way some of us did, was through his movies and then trying to talk with some of the people who had known him. But Romina decided she really needed to know much more about the man, not the movie idol. So she embarked on a career, not a career, well, it was almost a career because it did take 25 years. She tracked down many of the people who lived with him, loved him, people who worked with him, a lot of famous names that you would recognize, the famous names from the people in that golden era of Hollywood. Also stage performers. A lot of people don't know that Tyrone Power is quite accomplished on the stage, and he did radio and he did television. So she interviewed those people. It's a very candid book. It's a very intimate book. There have been a few books that have been published about Tyrone Power, but none like this one because she had the access to all of this information. So the book that was published in Italy was a bestseller, but that was in 1998, and everybody's been waiting all this time for the English language version to come out, and finally it is, and it has been updated, it has been expanded. There will be more than 80 photos in it. There will be stories that people have never heard before. There will be photos people have never seen before. And so getting more information about this book, the opportunity to order the book, to purchase the book, and have it in a very special Centennial limited edition, which makes it very, very valuable. People should come to the Pickwick Theater and to the other Centennial events, because that's the only place where you would be able to get this book. The book will be mass marketed later in the year, but for people who really want something special, this is the way to get it. And you can get more information about this book, about the event at the Pickwick Theater, and about all of the other Centennial events that are going to go on this year. And so for the Pickwick, Matthew, where should people go to get information to stay updated, not only on this event, but all these other wonderful classic film events you're doing?
Fans could go to our website, which is www.parkridgeclassicfilm.com.
Very good. You can also go to the Booked website, www.bookedwebcast.com, because on my blog, which comes out a new one every week, we will always have updates, full information on the Pickwick event, on all of the other events that are being planned. There's also another website that offers information. It's called Movie Memories, and that website address is www.moviememories.net. And Movie Memories is hosting a lot of the other events that are going to go on later this year, so you can stay updated on those as well. So come visit the different websites, learn about the events, stay updated, and I hope we're going to see everybody at the wonderful Art Deco historic Pickwick Theater May 1st. Doors open at 6:30 with fabulous music, and then the show will start. Two features and special guests, and more about Romina Power's book, Searching for My Father, Tyrone Power. Hope to see you then.